Can you train that? Can you raise your sort of baseline dopamine level? Or are they two separate questions?
It's a great question. I don't know that we have the answer. I think you can if you become more economical about whatever dopamine or other neurochemicals you happen to harbor inside. We know there's a lot of genetic and individual variation to these things. You know, there's a joke among parents, right? Like how they come out is how they stay, like the mellow kid, the mellow baby that didn't cry much. The happy baby remains the happy person. You know, there are circumstances that can alter that versus the fussy baby that's always fussy, even as an adult. You know, parents talk this way, but parents say all sorts of things. But, you know, I know people, for instance, like Rick Rubin, for instance, who is very high energy, but very calm. It's part of Rick's magic. He knows how to regulate and control his energy. He has this uncanny capacity to get near things, in particular art, music, and to experience them, really feel them, but not get absorbed by it. Not feel, at least to my knowledge, depleted by it. Some people get kind of absorbed by things and then depleted.
Is this like the introvert-extrovert conversation as well? Because two people can be in the same room, and I consider myself to be a bit of an introvert, where if I stand in a room for 2 to 3 hours doing small talk, the way I describe it, it's like my brain feels fried. Whereas my assistant, Sophie, it's like you've poured fuel into her.
Yeah. I'm similar to you, and I have an ex-girlfriend who loved parties. She would just get so much energy from parties. And I like certain parties, but I like the small conversation I might have at a party. So that resonates with me. I think we can shift, well, to answer the introvert-extrovert question, I do think that some people get energy from social interactions, other people less so. But I know people who are quite quiet, who like social interactions. They're just more an observer in those interactions as opposed to a participant. The introvert-extrovert thing also, at least my understanding of the science, is that it depends a bit on how quickly you fill up with social engagement. Like I like a good party, but after a couple hours, I'm like done, you know, and other people, they can just go. They get more energy from it. I think, you know, we think of Goggins as kind of an iconic example because he is, of somebody who is capable of pushing himself regardless of what the internal narratives might be. That's my sense, having spoken to him about it on my podcast and observed him on social media and other podcasts. Some people, like Jocko Willink, embody the, don't even think about it. You do it because it's 4:30 in the morning, and at 4:30 in the morning, you work out. Like, don't think, do. Whereas when I think of David, I think of many things, but in particular about overcoming the voice in the mind that's trying to pull you down and defeating that. In fact, having multiple representations of self in the brain, which is a fascinating thing unto itself. And then when I think about Rick, I think, you know, Rick is iconic in my mind for his sense of creativity, his ability to sense what is truly new and unique. He has incredible taste, right? To really be able to sense like this is new and different and exciting. And he seems to understand, without trying to seek what people are going to like, what people inevitably love. So that's one of his many superpowers. And everyone has their superpower. Those are just so extremes. I think of Lex Friedman as somebody who is so thoughtful. And I mean, I don't think people really understand just how hard Lex thinks about the tragedies of the world, the darkness in the world, but also the love that's in the world. I mean, he really like hyper affiliates with what's happening in his mind, and he's able to really like absorb himself in that. And you can feel like his like he gets right up next to the fire, like right up next to these things. And I think he represents a kind of iconic example of an explorer who will look anywhere, even if people are going to give him a hard time for it. But I think mostly people celebrate him for it. You know, so I think, you know, different people have different lenses on life and different capacities. I think if one wants to increase their baseline level of dopamine, I think it's important to regulate those peaks and troughs. I'm not a believer in like never having peaks in dopamine. A great wedding party, like I've been to some weddings where we just like partied all night, or great concerts. I'm actually a huge fan. It's kind of a genre of music I don't know much about, but I've always loved that band James. Do you know the band We Are James?
No, I don't.
Oh, it's so good. Okay, I'm gonna lose punk points for saying this, but best live shows ever. just the best live shows I've ever seen. And I know there are, I know there are a lot of different ideas about best live shows based on genres of music. It's like the best party you've ever been to. And I get a lift in energy that lasts 2-3 days from that. I don't consume any substances at those shows. They happen very seldom, but when I've gone for 2 or 3 days, I feel like a changed person.